Namaskar, dear friends, colleagues and students. Myself, Dr. N.K. Singh, Professor, Department of Veterinary Surgery and Radiology, Faculty of Veterinary and Animal Sciences, Banaras Hindu University. Today, we will be discussing on a topic that is contrast radiography. So to start with, let us see at this picture. You can make out different densities of different tissues and different organs, wherein the thoracic part you would be able to visualize properly. You can see the abdominal part and the pelvic area. There are different densities. So the difference in the optical density between the different parts, that is being figured out on the cassette or the image in the form of radiograph. It is that is called as a contrast. Basically, it is basically the reflection of a different absorption coefficients and the bulk of different regions of the part of being that is being radiographed. So as we all know that the incident ray that it passes through different tissues having a different densities, that is the reason that gets reflected at a different density points, and that is the one which helps us to appreciate the features in the form of photograph or a radiograph. Now to go in detail, let us know what is contrast media. It is a kind of a substance that renders any organ or a structure to get visualized more or a better without any other mode of picturization. It also allows visualization of structures that cannot be seen well under the normal circumstances, that is the plain radiograph. And if we would have to say technically, it is a chemical substance of a very high or very low atomic number or a weight. Hence, it has these chemicals has the ability to increase or decrease the density of an organ under examination. So to go more into detail, let us know a little bit or a brief history of the contrast media in radiology. The first ever contrast that has been used or reported for radiographing the gastrointestinal tract was kind of a study that was being conducted by the Bismuth, and that proved to be toxic to the patient, and it was conducted in 1897. Subsequently, in the year 1910, the barium sulfate was used with a lot of safety, and it proved to be safe to the patient. 10 years later, in 1920, sodium iodide that was being used to treat the syphilis, and it was later found that the iodine-based compounds are radio-opaque and can be very well utilized in the process of X-ray or the radiography. Based on all such modern contrast agents, or whatever the modern contrast agents that we have today is having an iodine based. In 1927, it is the first intravenous urography was being done by the iodized organic salts, that is uroselectin. If we have to see how the contrast agent needs to be, the first thing that we should know that any contrast agent that we utilize shall be easy to administer. It shall have no toxicity to the patient or no any other form of alteration it shall produce in the biological system. At the same time, the chemicals that is being used as a contrast agent shall be stable form or a stable compound. It means it shall not dissociate into toxic ions, and when injected, the media shall concentrate in an area to raise the density. So this is how, if it will have no ability to concentrate at a particular area, probably the basic purpose of raising a density of a organ or a tissue will not happen or will not take place. So it is basically the agent should have the physical feature that shall allow the organ to be properly demonstrated. For example, it is important to understand that the barium or a barium sulfate that we do use in the radiography, it helps in the coating of the lining of the GI tract, even in the presence of acidic environment. So it is an unstable compound, and it is not absorbed by the GI tract during the process. The other properties that shall go hand in hand with the contrast media are these agents should also possess the ability to get eliminated rapidly from the biological system, and these agents should not be carcinogenic at the same time, and these agents should have a viscosity so that it will help in the movement in the different regions of the GI tract, or in the veins, of course, if it is being used in the systemic route. And it should be appropriate to the patient when introduced into the biological system. And in spite of all these properties, the one major important thing that it should be cost effective, so that the buying capacity of the people should be there, and the contrast agent should be affordable by the people. Now, the method of administration, if we will have to discuss, these contrast agents that we discussed can be given orally, can be administered rectally. Rectally means it is through the anal route. The another route, that is intravenous, it means it could also be given by way of injection or in the form of infusion, and sometimes in a space filled area, for example joint cavity, it can be given as mechanically by filling the body cavity, for example the pleural cavity or the potential space that is to be radiographed. It can also be given by way of intramuscular route right into the muscles. If you have to talk about how many different types of contrast media that is available till date, so if we will categorize it, there are basically two forms of contrast media. Number one is negative contrast media, and another one is the positive contrast media. As the name suggests, it has its own feature. The negative contrast media are air, oxygen, carbon dioxide or nitrous oxide. So these are the one which creates the black region in the radiograph, so that any other organ which is featured in the presence of the negative contrast media gets the elevated density, or the enhanced radiograph will be there, which can be appreciated to arrive at a conclusion or make an diagnosis. The another one is the positive one. The positive one includes the barium or the iodine. So these are two agents which enhances the density of any such organs or the tissue which cannot be appreciated on the plain radiograph. If we will have to look at the tabulation form, the contrast media basically it is divided into, as I said, it is negative and the positive. And the positive part will get divided into the iodine based compounds or the barium sulfate, which is used in the GI tract, and the iodine compounds are actually being further divided into oil based, powder form or the water soluble. If we will have to classify the contrast agent based on the nature of material, we divide it into the iodine based or non-iodine based. So if we will have to see the iodine further, if we will have to look at the solvent form, it could be divided into the conventional ionic water soluble form or the oil based. So the iodine based aqueous compounds can be into two different forms basically, that is monoacidic monomers or monoacidic dimers, or in the other two forms are non-ionic monomers or non-ionic dimers. In the monomer form it is diatriazoate, and in the dimer it is hexabrix. Non-ionic monomers is iopamidol, iohexol, ioversol, or dimer form it is iodixanol or iorol. The negative contrast media as I already mentioned, it is the air, carbon dioxide and nitrous oxide. They are actually they do not absorb any X-rays. They are radiolucent. And on the other hand, the barium sulfate preparations, it is insoluble and it is non-absorbable by the GI tract. It means when it is being given parenterally or orally, it coats the linings of the gastrointestinal tract. So if there is any aberrations into it in the form of diverticulum or strictures or megaesophagus, it will coat the linings of the GI tract, and it can be very well noticed and identified, and it will help in the in making the diagnosis. But at the same time, the barium sulfate preparation, it has always been mentioned that if there is a ruptured gastrointestinal tract, it shall not be used because it may have repercussions. For example, it may cause inflammation, formation of granulomatous mass and fibroma. So it needs to be checked properly. On the other side, the water-soluble iodine compounds are basically the low osmolarity products, and these are sodium and meglumine salts of iothalamic or sodium salts of diatriazoic or the meglumine salts of diatriazoic compounds. Cholecystopec is actually could be given orally also, and it has an intravenous preparation. It is a water-soluble organic iodine, and it is very useful to ascertain the liver functions, as it is easily gets excreted through the biliary system. Hence, it is used for lining the biliary system and the gallbladders, and it is mostly used as IV. So in IV preparations, there are different forms which is available, are meglumine iodoxamate or ioglycamate or iotroxate. The oral preparations are sodium iopodate or iopanoic acid. Viscous and the oily preparations for myelography, for example, this for doing a contrast study of the spinal column. If non-ionic iodine compounds or low osmolarity mediums are not available, iodine-based oil solutions could be used. Ethiodol or pentapec or lipidol, etc., can be used as oil preparations of the iodine. So let us know what are the different contrast agents which could be used in different studies. It could be used in the scintillography for doing a contrast study of the salivary glands. Venography, it is normally being replaced by the ultrasonography because usually the USGs are being done to check this earlier. Now the venography, it helps a lot in making a diagnosis better as compared to the USG. Arthrography, it is done for the knee joints. Myelography, as I already mentioned, it is for the spinal space, or fluoroscopy is done for the gastrointestinal tract. Angiography was actually being replaced by the cardiology. Lymphography as for the lymph nodes, and urography for urinary system, kidney, ureters and bladders. Barium swallow for GI tract. Computed tomography and MRI are also being used along with the contrast agents. Scintillography, here it is a radio-opaque material which is being given into this ductal system, and through these ducts it actually lines the different salivary glands, and it helps in making the diagnosis better. Now, what for the scintillography and other things has been done, it is apart from that, it can also see the certain scintilloliths which is there in the salivary glands. If there is a strictures in the ducts or obstructions, we can utilize the contrast media, and if there is a pain or a swelling in those areas, it could also be very well diagnosed with the use of contrast media. Infections, tumorous mass or so, or any kind of a trauma, we can use it. And in the when there is a whenever there is a plain radiography is inconclusive, we can also go ahead with the contrast media which is to be used for doing a sialography. Contraindications, if we'll have to see, it is important whenever we are using contrast medias, we need to understand the history of the patients for any kind of allergies. If it has been given or tested with any contrast agent earlier, we should know the history of allergies, because a severe inflammation could always witness with some of the agents, because especially with the iodine compounds or iodine compounds prepared in the oil based. Arthroscopy, it is to done to do the identification or any aberrations in the joint space or the soft tissue, cartilage, menisci, and it is largely been coupled with the MRI. The different areas, as apart from sialography, it is dacrocystorhinography. It is done for nasolacrimal duct, bronchoscopy for bronchioles, retilography for reticulum, and pneumocystography for abdominal cavity, intravenous pyelography for urinary tract, myelography for spinal cord, and fasciography for tendon and associated structures, osteomedallography for long bones, urethrography for urethra, cystography for urinary bladder, angiography for arteries. Now, if you just see at this picture how the contrast media actually works for hollow organs, especially, for example, this is a picture which is just showing a GI tract right from the esophagus down to the anus. If you see, there is a mucosal mass in a picture A. So, in order to enhance the density of this mucosal mass, we can use the contrast agent, as actually it will just line up. It will just line these areas, and the density will definitely enhance. So, it helps in diagnosis. In other picture, you can see if there is a submucosal area, there is an intramural mass which can also be identified. If the contrast media will just line these areas internally, it will help to enhance the density and make it helps in better diagnosis. Sometimes the masses are extrinsically available, which cannot be appreciated very well in the plain radiograph. So, lining of the contrast agents internally will also help to understand whether the mass is intrinsic or extrinsically present. This is the mucosal mass. Now, you can see that the mucosal mass lining, you have a different densities here, where it is very well understood. This is the mass which is being seen, and the lining, when it is lining this area, the identification of the mucosal mass has become very, very distinct and can be clearly identified. Mucosal mass and in the intramural masses, here the extrinsically present mass. It means the lining is just coated here. You can see the dye is just moving down, and the mass is just outside the GI tract, or the here also the dye is just doing it. It means this is actually stricture, narrowing of the GI tract. So, this helps basically in the identification of the radiograph which is being posed, and the very important aspect of the contrast radiography in conjunction with the MRI or CT scan or a plain radiography, the diagnosis become very confirmatory, and it helps the surgeon to take decisions if at all it has to go for any kind of surgeries. Thank you so much.